Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver when she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started together with Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is somebody who's not just nationally and internationally known, but someone who means the world to me. I hope he knows that. I just want to welcome Sebastian to the show, and we have so many incredible things to talk about, but number one is how you really truly inspire so many. So welcome to the show. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background.
Hi, George. It's nice to be here. My background, well, I'll try to keep it brief. I'm old, and the older you get, the longer the background gets, I guess. Um, I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and immigrated to the United States in the year 1980. Um, I'm a music producer, and I've had the good fortune to work on a lot of great albums with a lot of great artists throughout my career. I've been doing it for about 30 years. Um, and in 2019, March 2019, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's and have been navigating that fun uh, journey ever since. And I say fun because it's not.
Where all the boats can travel down the rivers when they're full and travel down.
What is that?
Actually, that's okay. Keep going. I'm actually trying as you speak to pull up one of your videos, so I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. So, that's pretty much my story. I have a wife, two wonderful boys or men at this point who are 22 and 25. And they're my support system, my immediate support system. I had DBS, deep brain stimulation surgery, May 9th of this year, and May 24th was the second surgery, and it's been a real life-changing event for me for the better.
Great. Again, I'm really grateful for your time and you sharing your journey. This reason I do this, you probably are aware, since we've spoken for a few times over the last year. I just don't want anyone to ever feel alone. And hearing your journey and your inspiring tale is really, I think, reaching so many people throughout the world that I just want to thank you for sharing. We can get right into some of this important topics, but first of all, what is it like to not only have an international reach, but something that really changes the world for so many out there who might be struggling also through the Parkinson's? Do you ever dedicate some of the music that you do to that, or what are some of the ways you also help with awareness today?
Well, we do an event every year in conjunction with the Latin Grammys. The night before the Latin Grammys, wherever they are. This year's they're in Miami, so our event will be in Miami.
Well, that's my neighborhood. Hopefully I get to meet
Yeah.
you.
Where do you live?
I'm in South Florida, so I actually did a lot of training in the police world in Miami and lived in the area nearby in Fort Lauderdale, but Miami is our hometown.
Oh, great. I lived in Pembroke Pines for 12 years and grew up
Oh,
in Kendall, so
oh.
yeah, I know the area well. So the what we do is we raise money for the Michael J. Fox Foundation with this event. 100% of the sponsorship money goes directly to Michael J. Fox. So they actually write a check to the foundation. Not, I don't have a foundation. I don't want to have a foundation. I don't.
Sound like me.
Yeah. But I'd love to raise money. For this cause. It started just as a fundraiser years ago, and then when we raised money for City of Hope and for St. Jude's and for Breast Cancer Center and for Lauderdale, for a couple of music education, a thing called Education Through Music Los Angeles, which reinstates music programs in schools. And then when I was diagnosed, I kind of said, I'm going to be selfish and raise money for this because I'd like to help the people researching Parkinson's to find better treatments and better cures. Hopefully find a cure for it. Although I have my own views upon why it's so difficult nowadays to cure anything.
Yeah. I think it's important too that the Latin community is thought of. Unfortunately, many times there might be forgotten in the world of medicine and Parkinson's awareness. I see a lot of incredible individuals out of the U.S., but I think we need more of impact for awareness in the Latin community. My wife and family are Cuban, so I think it hits my home. Their side doesn't have Parkinson's, but it's something that I don't see enough awareness. I'm glad that you said you're from South Florida. I lived in Plantation during law school, and we were probably neighbors and didn't even realize it. But I hope that this today is shared throughout the world, but really makes a statement too for the Latin community, because there are individuals like yourself who are going through this battle, but need to know that they're never alone. So thanks again for all you do.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised when, when I just did a small post about having Parkinson's, how many people reached out to me with a relative, with somebody close to them that was fighting the disease. So, and all from the music community and from the Latin music community. So you're right. I mean, it's this is not a like all diseases or most diseases, this is not a disease that discriminates.
Yeah.
It doesn't care how much money you have, how much fame you might have, what you do for a living, what your resources are, or where you're from, or who you are. You know, if you have it, you have it. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of it is also to the events that we do is to raise awareness, but also to take away the stigma and have people talk about it and have people seek help. Especially in cultures like the Latin culture where it's very much a quiet sort of, you know, there's awareness of doctors and the medical profession and people try not to, put this stuff out in the open and a lot of people go without treatment or which I can't imagine what my life would be like without, especially the last treatment I had, but just medicine. I know a lot of people that can't get access to medicine in Latin America and that are suffering through this, and it's heartbreaking because I can't imagine what they go through.
Yeah,
I
my
mean,
mother, it's similar. She had it for 15 years, but I'm not sure she didn't want to share it because she didn't want to burden the family. But I wish she had told us earlier. But, going through that, also, like you mentioned, people misdiagnosed, people not taking the right proper medications. There's just so many other complications that can come if it's not properly treated in the first place.
yeah,
Now maybe we could go back for a moment about music. I think I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I'm no professional. I just do it for fun. It kind of, for me, it makes me feel like I forget the world for a few minutes, and that's something that's important for not just mental health, but just just taking you away from life for a few moments. Maybe you could tell us about producing and how you got into the world, and then kind of how it might have shifted, or even if it changed a little after you were diagnosed. But to me, music impacts, as you better know than me, the world in such a positive way. I mean, I think we need to put 10 times more back into the schools for the children instead of the opposite that seems to be happening throughout the US for some reason. But maybe you could again touch on, how your journey into music before, middle, and after.
yeah. I mean, with music, it's one of those things that I mean, listen, everybody loves music, but I think some people like myself get bitten by the bug and it's all you want to do all day long.
Mhm.
Um, it's interesting because it was definitely like that at the beginning of my career. And then as life goes on, you start developing other interests. Um, and, I've had a wonderful career, but it's what I do for a living. It's my job and it's a great job. Uh, um, but it's not life itself. You know what I mean? It's not the most important thing in the world. I mean, I love when I work on something and I meet somebody that the music has impacted. Um, because you just don't you work on something and then it comes out months or even a year or years after you've worked on it. So you kind of forget about it. and by the time it reaches people, you're like, oh yeah, that thing. It's you never know what's gonna hit somebody and what's gonna impact somebody, but that's definitely an added bonus. And as far as my diagnosis goes, I mean, it's been difficult the last year and a half, I would say, is when the symptoms sort of caught up with my work. And like I barely worked last year. I started working again about 2 weeks ago. DBS has helped that. It's still difficult to play instruments. And anything that requires fine motor skills, being on the computer, being on the phone, any of that stuff is really kind of challenging. But I'm hopeful that with practice and sort of relearning and trying to find workarounds that I'll still be able to do my work. If I'm not, it's interesting. When you're diagnosed with something like this and something that used to bring you pleasure no longer does, like say just picking up a guitar and playing. And it's instead of getting frustrated, I just, you either try to relearn it in a different way or you just move on. It's not a huge emotional burden on me if I can't play guitar right now. I'm glad I got to play. I have a really nice guitar collection. That's the only bummer, that I'd like, some newer ones that I haven't really gotten to play as much as I'd like, but it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I mean, last night I went to a show and I saw Billy Strings play. I don't know if you're aware of his music. Incredible guitar player. And I could sit in my seat and go, I wish I could do that, but I wouldn't be able to do that whether I had Parkinson's or not, what that guy does. So it doesn't really matter,
Yeah. What was it like winning Grammys? And I don't know if you have it in the room. We should have planned, but I could have showed it. But
No, I have them. I actually I sent them all to the university I attended. So they're all over there at the school.
that's safe too. It's probably nice to have it out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean it's, it's nice. It's nicer to win than not to win, but music as a competitive sport is not something that I mean, there's so many incredible artists that I love that have never won a Grammy, which makes you question, the validity of the award to me. I mean, I have more Grammys than Bob Marley, Queen, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, and Tupac combined because they never won a Grammy.
yeah.
And that's a list. I mean, Queen, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Hendrix. I mean, you're talking about pioneering musicians who never won. So you question whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that they actually gave you one of these. Because if I had to trade all my Grammys for Hendrix's talent, I wouldn't think twice about it. Or being able to sing like Freddie Mercury, I wouldn't think twice about it.
I often have Celia Cruz blasting here on the weekends.
Yeah,
So
I got to work with her years
oh
ago.
wow, that's
It was
amazing. Well,
wonderful. Yeah.
I'm glad my family's not in the room right now. They would all be going screaming and like amazed. That must be an incredible story.
I was an assistant. I served coffee.
That's still
It was still cool. She was super nice. She
that's
was a
amazing.
wonderful lady. Her and her husband were really nice people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's a nice thing to try, forget about winning, but just being able to be out there with those individuals who also have such an important reach in the world. I wonder when you did speak or mention about Parkinson's, maybe the first time to some of those, other Grammy winners or the celebrities, what was their response? Were they able to help, like with awareness? Did they join in on your fundraising too, or is it tough?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've gotten a tremendous amount of support from the industry, from friends. The main thing was just seeing how, I was working on a couple of projects at the time, and how understanding and supportive the artists were, and how patient they were with, all my doctor's appointments, and, my newfound insomnia and tiredness and energy, and, all that kind of stuff. So I was, and I mean, it's like anything, listen, I don't work with celebrities. I work with musicians. If they happen to be famous, it's because they do something exceptionally well. It's kind of like, a real musician or a real artist is sort of like a sports, somebody who plays sports at an elite high level. They're not doing it because, they wanted to get rich. They didn't do it because they wanted to get famous. They did it because they love music. And I think that's a very different mentality than like this sort of celebrity minded mentality of people that what they want is eyes on them for no apparent reason and no discernible talent. So, the people that I work with are great people. They're people with their own families, with their own problems, with their own challenges. Um, and I got a tremendous amount of support, still getting a tremendous amount of support. We've already raised, hopefully now it's making people part with their money, but on paper for the event we're having in November, we've already raised about 170 grand
Well,
for the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which is already more than we've ever raised before. So the
where,
support is definitely there.
can you tell us more about the event, where it will be located? Is it virtual too, or just live?
It's actually industry only. It's invitation only. Um, it's basically the event it's a lot of fun because we have a killer band, and all these nominees get up on stage and do covers by other artists. So it's a lot of fun. Everybody lets their hair down. It's not a formal event. It's a very much hang out and have drinks and support a good cause. So it's a win-win for everybody.
How did you get started or even found? Because, as you mentioned, there's so many incredible talents in the world, but to have the one like yourself make it and kind of work with those artists and do such incredible things in the music field, what was that one moment you might remember that, you just made it?
Um, there isn't really one moment. It's a slow burn, and then you look back and you're like, oh wow, you've done all this, made all this music, but there wasn't a break per se. There were a lot of them.
Mhm.
Um, you know, my first one was getting an internship where I didn't get paid and I got coffee
Mhm.
in Gloria and Emilio Estefan's studio. But to get that break, I called the studio for 2 months every day until the receptionist was late one day and the studio manager answered. So, I think it takes a lot of persistence, a lot of dedication. Um, I'm not going to say sacrifice because sacrifice is a word that I reserve for people who make real sacrifices. But it takes a lot of, you have to be dedicated, and you have to be patient, you have to just keep at it until, all of a sudden you find yourself doing what you wanted to do. But it was definitely a slow burn. I was an assistant for about 4 years, and then I engineered for about 4 or 5 years more, and then I started producing. So the first decade of my work was just laying down the groundwork to, have an opportunity. And then when those opportunities came, being prepared for them, being ready to make sure that I could actually do what I was supposed to professionally. But it's not listen, when you work for yourself, so you're constantly unemployed, you
Mhm.
know. Um, but I've been incredibly fortunate. There's some dumb luck that has to go along with all of this. But I think the way you make your luck is by being persistent and working, and just being in the studio, being in, I have a friend who has passed away who used to say, the world is run by people who show up. So you got to show up.
Well, we thank you and we send our love and support to you and all you do. Maybe you could discuss now. I'm going to share, first of all, this. I want to thank you again for this. I think you might recognize this young man.
Yeah,
I want
that's
to
a
thank you
long
for
time ago.
interviewing with me in the past. It's amazing how this was 2023 goes quickly, but everyone, if you go to togetherforsharon.com, click interviews, you'll be able to read a lot more in depth about Sebastian and also how to reach him and a lot of his music, which I really wanted to try to get to today if we have a minute. It's just so incredible. And I listen a lot, and these artists, many of us grew up with. So thank you again for your work. Now I wanted to kind of see if we could shift for a moment. If you can talk a little bit about DBS, and then wanted to talk about your incredible work with the Patient Council, but the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
Yeah, I mean, the DBS has been just a game changer for me. Um, you know, I suffered so much from freezing of gait and off times, like really, really bad off times. And to have a procedure that really gets rid of that for the most part is unbelievable. I used to, when I did my on-off test before my DBS surgery, um, the doctor said they'd never seen somebody have such a polar change between on and off times. They would see a 50% improvement, 60% improvement, something like that. But when my meds were on, I had like 80% improvement. I mean, I was fine when my meds were on, but they were so erratic that I couldn't plan anything. I couldn't plan a day of work. I couldn't plan a dinner. I couldn't plan going out. I couldn't plan a trip. My quality of life was really compromised. So it was sort of a no-brainer, no pun intended, to go and have the surgery. And the surgery was actually, the recovery takes a long time, but it was actually very smooth. It's just you feel like you can do anything right after the surgery, so you just have to remind yourself to take it easy. I think that's the hardest part. Beyond that, what else? As far as the patient council goes, it's an incredible group of people that try really hard to have a voice and focus, really focus the foundation to where there may be real progress and really what really patients are dealing with, so the foundation can go and find people trying to deal with those problems. I mean, Parkinson's is such a complex condition that has so many symptoms and so many combinations of symptoms. And like the saying goes, if you met one person with Parkinson's, you met one person with Parkinson's. So we try to educate the people in the foundation. We try to educate the medical community. It's incredible how much the medical community doesn't know about how to treat Parkinson's. So you really have to advocate for yourself. You have to, if you have Parkinson's disease or you're living with somebody with Parkinson's, you have to really advocate for those people and really not take, like, I'll give you an example. Before my current neurologist, I had, I was having about 6-7 good hours a day. And I went to my neurologist and I said, listen, I'm having 6 or 7 good hours a day. And he said, oh, that's good. And I'm thinking to myself, no, it's not. That's terrible. I got diagnosed 4 years ago, and basically 2/3 of my day is shot because the treatment's so ineffective. So I didn't just take him at his word. I got a new neurologist who told me, no, you should be having a full day, worth of activity. Some of it may be more challenging, but we need to put you on a protocol that'll help you, that'll help you move forward and live your life. And he did. So if I wouldn't have advocated for myself, if I would have taken that one neurologist at face value, I'd probably be up to 4 good hours a day now. So don't just think you have to sit and suffer, I guess is the message to anybody with Parkinson's. Is don't listen to your doctor, but if you feel like things could or should be better, then fight for that, because you might be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand. We tried about 15 different doctors. Unfortunately, we couldn't also figure it out. But knowing that moment, who the right physician is, who the right specialist is, and when you make that decision, if you're going to do DBS or not, making that decision again, that you have the right doctor on your side. And I know it's even a team. It's not just,
Oh yeah.
doctor. So it's a very interesting discussion. I've had a few individuals who had DBS. One, I don't know if you know Dan O'Brien. He's another musician in South Florida, and he actually had the DBS. He shut it and put it on live. It was just fascinating, but it's not for everyone. I know my mother. We kind of
I
mentioned
have
it.
it here.
Yeah, one time we mentioned it to my mother, but also she was a little too much in fear, but also she didn't have more of the external tremor, she had more internal, which was also frustrating because, she was going through it, but was upset that people might not believe her. So we went through so many different types of variations. And like you said, just because you meet one person with Parkinson doesn't mean that's everyone. So I really appreciate your honesty and sharing that. Was there a reason? I know we donate a lot because we love Mr. Michael J. Fox as a hero of mine, but was there a specific reason why you decided to join with their organization or foundation, or how did they approach you, or did you approach them, or?
They I think when I was first diagnosed, I approached them, telling them who I was and saying, if you need anything, you know, I'll be happy to partake. And then, um, I was also looking for care. So see if they could, steer me in the right direction. And they were helpful with that. Um, and then my brother, who's a very successful businessman, um, talked to them about fundraising, and then he became part of the board. And when he became part of the board, they brought me on to the Patients Council. So, I think what I like about them, what I like about the Michael J. Fox Foundation is they're doing research. I mean, they're the ones who have moved the needle, since he started the foundation as far as research and treatments. And, I do believe that, the cure or the treatment that's going to be sort of the silver bullet treatment is going to come from money that they invest. They're a wonderful organization. They're really committed, to finding a cure. The reason I said before that I'm not sure if that's feasible is that I believe that we have set up a culture with the pharmaceutical companies, not the researchers, not the doctors, but the pharmaceutical companies, where since it's such a, since treatments are lucrative, cures are not. Let's just put it that way. So we used to be a society that used to cure ailments. Now we treat them. you know, like the treatments for AIDS, for example. You know, they're very expensive, but they work. But it's not a cure.
Yeah.
You know, you have to take that. And thank God they found, you know, something that'll let people have their life back. You know, because that was a horrible. If you were around in the 80s, you remember how terrible that was and how incredibly horrible of a disease that was. And it's great that they found effective treatments, but you know, I feel like if it was 100 years earlier, they would have found a cure.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway,
Thanks.
that's my rant, and that's my view alone, and it's not the Michael J. Fox's Foundation view. In fact, they don't like it.
Well,
They don't like my fatalistic view of the pharmaceutical industry, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I appreciate your honesty, and also about the background. We were lucky enough to go to the Unity Walk last year, so definitely amazing to see Mr. Fox speak, and then had the opportunity to meet him recently. But being there, you know, as you know, live is just incredible with people who are battling Parkinson's with their families, but all being there for one purpose. And the Michael J. Fox Foundation, I think in just 2 or 3 hours, they raised $2 million. So it's pretty incredible. And like you said, and I think we're a family in this fight. I think that I might have a small voice or you might have a large one, but if we bring them together, it's incredible what we can do and how we can change awareness forever. So I wanted to shift now to kind of wrapping up a little bit more about Sebastian. This is the fun part for me and everyone loves this. So again, just start it. Can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Who am I? Oh, so what, 3 words?
These are my favorite responses, the shock of the question over the response of the question.
I am me. How about that?
I love it. That's 3, so you got it.
Yeah.
Is there one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out through all of your work so far with awareness that you could share?
Um, a moment that stands out with awareness that I could share. Um, yeah, I would say the first time that we were on stage in Vegas and we got one of those big dumb checks,
Mhm.
you know, that you see. um, and the first time I was able to give a check to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, that was a 6-figure check. That definitely that was a special night.
That's amazing. I don't know if you could share any ways that you combat Parkinson's on a daily basis.
Exercise. Exercise. No matter how bad you feel, um, after you move, you're gonna feel better. So if you feel comfortable sitting down or laying down, get up and move around. You know,
Thank you.
even if it's for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is.
Next one's an important one to me. I was a caregiver, like as you probably know. I want to know if you could give any tips to caregivers, but also who helps you during times of struggle, kind of behind the scenes. You know, a lot of time we talk about you because you're my guest and a friend also, but wonder if there's anyone behind the scenes that we don't really get to thank or bring their, you know, voice to light that really affects you on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, my wife, you know, we've been together for 33 years. She's the one who really deals with this. Um, I mean, it's, you know, I think what I would tell caregivers is that my experience is that it's more difficult to watch your family adapt to your condition than it is for you to adapt to your condition. You know, it's difficult to watch your caregiver have to deal with this because this isn't necessarily the way that they had thought that their life was going to go. Um, you know, so there's a certain amount of sort of guilt associated. I think this is a lot harder for my family than it is for me. And even on the, them have to drop things and be waiting in a hospital waiting room while I'm having brain surgery. It's not anything fun for them. And even though the outcome has been great, it has to be very, very taxing on people around you. And I think that the other thing I would say to caregivers is um trust the person you're giving care to. I know the propensity is to try to do a lot for them, but if somebody tells you I got it, let them. Because that's if they don't got it, that's the way they're gonna figure it out.
Right.
It's how we used to say with the kids, they used to run around and fall down, and you're like, well, that's how they learn. Don't run around the pool, don't run around. Okay, there he goes. Okay, now he's no longer gonna run around the pool. So I do think that it's our nature as people is to really try to protect try to protect the ones we love. But at the same time, I think for people going through this, you don't want to give up your independence so easily. I mean, I'd be fine honestly, if they give me like 5 nurses and they want to take care of me, I'll be fine, because I'm lazy. But like my mom has Parkinson's and she's, she's as hard-headed as they come. And she's, she sat us down, the 3 kids, and she was like, listen, when I tell you guys, I'm going to do something, let me do it. And we're like, okay. That's why when Joe Biden dropped out of the race recently, somebody asked me what took him so long, and and my response was, have you ever tried to get an old person to do anything? It's kind of hard. It's like an immovable mountain. So kudos to him for for actually doing it.
Well, we send our love to your wife and your mother and the whole family for their battle and also for their support and their time. I do remember one time as you were discussing a tough topic was when I had to make a decision where we had to take my mother's car keys away because she, was getting progressing Parkinson's and she was actually a danger to herself and others if she kept driving. But her whole life,
I'm in the middle of that one right now in mine.
I don't want to hit a hot topic of any family, but we, her life, she was divorced, but she was an independent woman and she lived alone and loved living alone. And we have 3 children and she kind of wanted to live with us, but didn't want to hear them screaming all the time. But
Right.
she, so when you take that independence away and the hope, that's what was tough. But I don't want to bring up the topic at the family table today.
No, and I gotta tell you, man, I think it's beautiful that you keep your mom's legacy and her name and her life alive. I think it's a wonderful thing that you do, and it's very heartening. All you can ask for, when you're gone, is that once in a while you go through somebody's head and heart, and what you do with her memory, I think, is incredible.
No, I appreciate it, but it's because of individuals like you who honestly inspire me that I want to keep doing this because I don't want anyone like yourself to have to keep battling this disease and I want to cure. Obviously, we can't bring her back, but we can still save so many and help so many in her memory. So
Right.
as long as you're still fighting and battling, I'm gonna always be right by your side. And like I won't accept money. We don't want any. I once had to send money back to someone, which cost me money. So that's not what we do. And like you said, I don't want to be a foundation. There's a reason, because then it kind of, no offense to foundations, I love them all, but then you kind of move from, my purpose, which is just awareness to kind of, and there are things that you can't get done unless you have a foundation. So, I mean, even
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, money's going to cure this disease, or money's going to find the right treatment. But I think that for me, especially in the Latin community, what happens is that there's so much skepticism towards charity. And that's why I set it up this way. That way, if anybody wants to give, we have a link. We have a page within the Michael J. Fox Foundation. They can go to that link and give, and it'll account. It'll be money that we raised for them, but the money goes directly to them, and I think it's the best thing to do. It's a reputable foundation. I mean, they do incredible work, and as does the Parkinson's Foundation. I mean, I don't think there's a bad organization that I've come across in the Parkinson's community. I think everybody's got their eye on the ball, and everybody's trying to push for the same thing, which is to find a cure and to find better, more effective treatments.
If you could, this is the final question, but I do want everyone out there to please follow Sebastian, support him, go to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. You can donate in his name and on through the fundraiser that he's conducting. Also pick up his music, even though it's, might be some of the old classics of the Grammys. I think they never get old, and I think it's incredible. Even music therapy, which we don't have the time. There's so many things to help also other individuals battling any disease. The music therapy is one of the most important things, and I think music really touches us and never forget. I mean, the cover of my book was a dance I had with my mother. The mother and son danced during my wedding, and it was the Barry Manilow, who she kind of made me listen to my whole life, and now I love him. But it's called I Am Your Son, but that song and that memory, Parkinson's disease, can never take that moment away. And it's incredible, when we think about just music, and it brings back, memories and good times. So grateful for all your time and all you do. Maybe you could leave us with just some words that you might have of encouragement for the Parkinson's community, and also if anyone wanted to reach out, how can they find you?
I'm on Instagram under my name at Sebastian Krys. And words of encouragement, just it's funny that the last council meeting they asked two people to speak. They asked me to speak as well, and the theme of my speech was you don't know what you don't know. So, doctors can give you a prognosis and you can decide to accept it or try to prove them wrong. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, my youngest son just lost one of his best friends.
Okay, so it's already here then.
Yeah, a few days ago, and he's, it's the first person his age that he's lost and that he was close to. So we've been through that, and obviously you've been through terrible losses, as have I. And this kid was 22 years old. So I think whatever it is that ails you, whatever it is you're fighting, you just got to keep fighting. You got to wake up every day, and it's funny. The days are tough, but they're not impossible. I feel like one of the real blessings of Parkinson's has really taught me how to live in the now. Because if I start thinking about, since I couldn't before make plans, you gotta, okay, where are you right this second, and what do you want to do right now? And that's the thing, to get out there, to get to socialize, leave the house, I understand that sometimes it's hard that it's one of the things that we don't talk enough about is sort of you don't want people to see you, when you have Parkinson's disease. You don't want to be out. You don't want people to see you with the symptoms. You don't want people looking at you. And I think that you have to flip that on its head. And it's like, that's on you as much as it is on them. Because a lot of times I was very self-conscious about going out in public, and I'd be out with a friend and I would say something, or I'd be out with my family, with my sister, or with my wife, and and they would kind of put me on my place. They'd be like, that's not what they're looking at, so it's like it's your own craziness that you're projecting onto a situation. as opposed to reality, which is, you know, people see it and you tell them I have Parkinson's and they get past it, you know. And if they don't, they don't, then it's their problem. But I would just encourage people. I think being in more social settings, talking to people, seeing friends, exercising, just trying to be as out there as you can is very good. It is essentially, you know, as important as the medication you're taking or more.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
thank you. I agree. I mean, support to me even now, just talking to you helps support, it helps me because it helps me remember my mother, but also helps us send a message to the world, letting them know they're never alone in this fight. And I have a little message for you and everyone listening as we conclude today. We love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Sebastian, will advocate for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started because even though I'm not, seeing you and seeing, you know, how you inspire so many, and just being able to call you again friend, and always battle by your side through this fight, and you're sir never alone. So I just so grateful again for your time today and the last year, and also excited for the future. And if we could ever help in any way to promote the not the foundation, both Michael J. Fox, but your event specifically, always count us in. And again, I'm so again grateful for your time today.
great. I'll send you a link to the event now that I'm
Well,
here in South Florida, and
sure.
we'll have you guys come out. I
Uh,
think it's a lot of fun.
That would be beautiful. And any other public thing they'll definitely share too to help support you in any way. Well,
Appreciate it.
thanks again, Sebastian. Thanks everyone for listening. It's another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son. Remember, please share this. Please support Sebastian and in this fight for a cure, but also Parkinson's awareness is my priority. Some nights, sadly, I don't sleep thinking about everyone still out there battling. And as you all know, hopefully by now, I'm not going to rest until we do have a cure. So thanks everyone. Again, this conversation can end today. This has to be continually shared to bring us closer for more awareness throughout the world. And everyone out there listening, we love you. We send our support. So thanks everyone again. Have a great day.
Bye.